Hey guys, I want to talk a little bit about parallel and perpendicular lines. Parallel lines, you should know they have the same slope or equal slopes. Okay, perpendicular has the opposite reciprocal, so you have to know what a reciprocal is. Reciprocal means that it is flipped. The numerator becomes the denominator, and then vice versa, like you just flip them. Opposite reciprocal means you change the sign and you flip it. So you need to know that about the slopes of perpendicular lines. All right. General form of equation. This is just a slope-intercept form. This is the form that you use the most often. I want to remind you of equations of lines. So there are three main equations of lines that we use on a regular basis. So you may want to jot these down in your notes because you probably will use these. You got point slope. Okay, that means you're given a point and a slope. So you would fill in your x and y1 from your point, and your m is your slope. So that is called point slope form. That's an equation of a line. We're talking about linear equations here. And then slope intercept form, which is on your other paper there. This is the one we commonly see, y equals mx plus b, where m is your slope and b is your y-intercept. Okay, and then standard form. It's called standard form because we use standard form in polynomials and other equations too, and it's always like going in order from like your highest exponents down. With linear, we only have to the first power. So a good way to know that standard form is just that a, b, and c are real numbers. So a, b, and c are just numbers, but x and y are on the same side. So you're going to know that it's in standard form if your x and y are on the same side of your equation. Okay, so that's an important thing to look for. If x and y is on the same side, it may be in standard form. All right, so what are we looking at? We want to look at how to determine if lines are parallel. So here it says write equations of parallel lines. Okay, and it says use the graph to help you. So if you put this point on here and you put a point at 1, 2, and you put a point there. Well, I don't have my pen on, so let's see. All right, once I put a point on there, 1, negative, well, I put positive 2. Let's go 1, negative 2. Then I can use my slope, and I know that parallel lines have the same slope. So if I know the slope of this line, then I can use my slope to graph another point. So I just go down 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. Or I can go up 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. This is reviewed from Math 1. Okay, you might have reviewed it some in Math 2 as well, but you learned this all the way back in Math 1. All right, now it says to write an equation. So you need to write an equation for this line. Okay, now what if we wanted to determine if two lines are parallel? Let's say that we're going to prove that two lines are parallel. Okay, so we have to identify if they have the same slope because we just said parallel lines have the same slope. So if these lines are parallel, they will have the same slope. So how will we determine that? We have to find two intersection points. So there's one. If I come down through here, here's another one. So I can find the slope of this line by doing rise over run. So if I rise 1, 2, 3, negative 3. And from there, I'm going to go negative 3. I'm going to go over 2. So I'm going to go positive 2. So the slope of the first line is negative 3/2. Now we're looking at parallel lines. or perpendicular, this says, but we're trying to determine those look like parallel lines. Let's see if they are actually parallel lines. So let's see if there's a point here. If I come down through here, there's another point here. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3 over 2, negative 3 over 2. So that slope is negative 3 over 2. So because they have the same slope, these lines are considered parallel. Okay, now what does it mean to be perpendicular? Okay, so two lines are perpendicular if the slopes have negative reciprocals. Okay, so you would just look to see if the slopes have negative reciprocals. So let's go back to our picture here. Alright, so I don't have an example here of perpendicular, but I'm going to say if we have a slope of 1/2, and we're not looking at parallel right now, we're talking about perpendicular. If you remember, the little symbol for perpendicular is this. Looks like a 90-degree angle because they should intersect at 90 degrees if they're perpendicular. So if the slope of one line is 1/2, and you're trying to find the slope of a line that's perpendicular to this line, you're trying to see if it's the negative reciprocal of that. Negative means change the sign. Reciprocal means flip it. So 1/2 and negative 2 are slopes of perpendicular lines. Okay,